A lot of aspiring school leaders step into their first leadership role thinking that the job description defines who they are. But here's the reality. Your job description is just the baseline. The real difference makers, the leaders who grow, get promoted, and truly lead with impact are the ones who carve out their own lane and lead from it with confidence. That means stepping up as an instructional leader, managing your own time, growing your skills, and truly preparing yourself for the next level without waiting for permission. In this episode of the Aspiring School Leader Podcast, I'm going to show you 3 practical ways to make that happen. What's going on, aspiring school leader? I am Dr. Donovan II, educator, best-selling author, school leadership coach, and I help aspiring school leaders confidently land their first leadership role and lead with impact from day one. Now, today we're talking about why leading in your lane is the key to career growth. You know, in my book, Beyond the Classroom, I have a chapter and we talk about leading in your lane, which is so essential as it relates to you landing your first leadership role and operating within it effectively. Because everyone, remember, you're on a team once you land that first leadership role, and on your team, you're going to have a role and a responsibility, a ton of responsibilities. But you have to make sure that regardless of what your responsibilities are, you are carving out time to be your best self, to continue to learn, to continue to grow, to be that instructional leader that you know that you are, that you know you want to be. Because the truth is that every school district, every school culture is not necessarily a school culture of instructional leadership. They might not have a culture of you being an assistant principal doing walkthroughs and constantly popping into classrooms, but not just focusing on visibility, but focusing on impact, meaning you have created some sort of data tracker so you can support your teachers regarding their particular instructional goals and some of the things that you see could be improved, right? And so you have to figure out how you're going to be an instructional leader, even if the culture is not ready for that. And so that's why leading in your lane is so important. When it comes to career growth, you constantly have to make sure that you are doing things that you know are necessary to get you to where you want to be. See, we all have dreams and we all have goals. And the key is to not tie your dreams and goals to the curtail of someone else, right? You cannot necessarily believe that if someone else makes a move, or if someone else believes in you, or if someone else taps you on the shoulder, that's truly going to be your big break. That could be true. But what could also be true is you carving out time to invest in you to make sure that you are doing things correctly in terms of maybe creating some sort of portfolio and gathering the data that you need to be able to demonstrate the type of instructional leader that you are to take your career to the next level. You have to take matters into your own hands sometimes. Obviously, doing that by leading in your lane. So let's talk about 3 key points as it relates to you being able to do that effectively so that you can advance your career in a way that you know that's actually going to be effective for students, staff, and yourself, right? And so point number 1 is carve out your lane. Don't wait for permission. If you're an assistant principal or you're striving to be an assistant principal, right? Once you first land that role, your principal is going to give you tasks and responsibilities, but no one is going to hand you the opportunity to define yourself as a leader. You have to do that on your own. And a lot of times that happens by trial and error. A lot of times that happens by you focusing on your core values, right? Yes, we focus on the mission, vision, and core values of the organization, but you also need to focus on your own core values because that's going to inspire you. That's going to truly challenge you to become the leader that you know that you want to be. And it's going to ground you as well. Because you might see things that you don't necessarily agree with, and that doesn't mean that you need to also jump on to that initiative. It means that sometimes you're going to have to stand for something, right? We know the saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that actually can happen. And so you have to continue to tap into your core values, who you are as a person. And when you do that, you're truly going to be able to carve out your lane without waiting for permission. Your lane is where your skills, your passions, and your school's needs are going to come together. So again, it's this synergy, it's this connection between your core values, who you are, but also the core values of your principal, also the core values of the school district, and how can you merge those together to then lead within your lane. Instead of waiting for assignments, step into opportunities, lead a committee, drive an initiative, or volunteer to solve a problem. One of the things that I've been learning is that it's so important for you to operate within your lane, because when you step outside of your lane, you start to get into the jurisdiction of other people, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. But within what you are assigned to do as an assistant principal, as a supervisor, whatever the case is, once you land that first leadership role, you want to start figuring out, what can I do within this role that's going to enhance my ability to lead? What can I do in terms of maybe creating some sort of data tracker, right? That's going to help teachers grow. What can I do to create maybe an infographic as it relates to MTSS to figure out how I can create a checklist so that it's universally understood that these are the interventions that we need to be trying before we start to refer students to MTSS, right? To our MTSS committee, right? Like, what can you do within your current role that's going to help you become a better leader, a better instructional leader? And those are the things that I need you to start thinking about, right? Carve out your lane. Don't wait for permission. Point number two is be the instructional leader in the room. Sometimes assistant principals, right, can constantly get stuck in the box of being a manager, handling discipline, scheduling, the logistics, and all those things are important, but they don't define your leadership identity. Again, you have to be able to step outside the box to be that instructional leader, to get the feedback regarding how you are with teacher support and growth. Maybe you create a survey and you send that out to the teachers that you supervise so that you're getting the data from them to see what they truly need to work on, to see what you truly need to work on as an instructional leader to be able to better support them. But again, you have to be able to, and this is my favorite word, you have to be able to be humble. You have to show a level of humility if you want to truly grow as a leader. Instruction is the heartbeat of a school. If you want to grow in your career, you need to be seen as someone who makes instruction stronger. So in the midst of conversations about lunch duty and scheduling and handling all of these different roles and responsibilities, right? Bus duty, all of these things, how are you then having conversations about instruction? How are you having conversations with teachers about instruction, but also students? How are you having conversations with them about instruction, right? What are you doing to be the instructional leader that you need to be to grow in your career? That may mean you start managing your time a little bit better so that you can sit in classrooms. You're coaching teachers. You're giving feedback and also maybe supporting curriculum, right? So there is this triangulation as it relates to you being an instructional leader. There's this curriculum aspect. There's also the coaching and feedback aspect. There's also you getting into classrooms and doing walkthroughs aspect, not just focus on visibility, but also the instructional impact that you know you want to make. And so you have to start figuring out ways that you can influence instruction, because nobody is going to hold your hand and show you how to do it in your way. They might show you how to be an instructional leader as you continue to learn and grow by example, but many times you have to start figuring those things out by yourself. And that is okay, right? It's okay to operate within trial and error, to figure things out on your own as an instructional leader. It's okay to not have all of the answers because none of us do. It's okay to ask for help in those moments of how do I score this evaluation? It seems a little bit tricky, right? Right? Do I give this teacher an additional opportunity to be observed? Because the first time that I went into the classroom, I didn't see things that I thought were aligned with our mission and vision and core values of our school, right? Those complex questions that you may be wrestling with, it's okay to not know those answers. Seek support when you need it, but also understand that a part of leadership is you going through that trial and error process. So number 2 is be the instructional leader in the room. And lastly, grow yourself while growing others. You cannot forget that you as an aspiring leader, once you land that first leadership role, and let's say you are an assistant principal or a vice principal, whatever your situation is, right? A supervisor, a director, a dean. If that is the case, but you do have aspirations of moving forward, you have to keep that in mind on a daily basis. As you are growing others, how are you focusing on your own professional development? When was the last time that you spent time going to a conference? When was the last time that you watched a webinar? When was the last time that you were poured into by someone who has not even necessarily more experience, but a different experience? We can learn from many different people, right? Just because someone has 1 or 2 years of experience doesn't mean that you can't learn from them. You can. We can all learn from one another, but you just have to be open to it. And so you have to make those investments in your own professional development, because if you decide that you want to advance in your career, but you don't have the tangible, practical experiences in particular areas, because every level is different, then it might take you a little longer to reach that level and to reach that goal. So keep that in mind. Carving your lane isn't just about supporting the school. It's also about preparing yourself for the next step. That means balancing the urgent demands of the job with intentional time for your own professional growth. When was the last time you read a book? When was the last time that you talked to your mentor? Hopefully you have one. Or reflected on your practice. We cannot forget to be lifelong learners just because you are sitting in a leadership seat. You have to be poured into. You didn't make it. Nobody arrives. So make sure that you are constantly investing in yourself. Point number 3 was grow yourself while growing others. So this week, I want you to think about how you can engage in one of these 3 areas, even if you are someone who hasn't landed the role yet in terms of being a school leader, right? Many of you who are watching are aspiring leaders. You are trying to get to that next level. But within your experience of trying to get to the next level to land your first leadership role, how can you carve out your lane? What can you do right now as a teacher to separate you from the individuals that you are going to be applying against, right? And interviewing against. What can you do right now? Don't wait for permission. Figure out, right? Study the school culture and climate that you are currently in and figure out where you can support and maybe lead an initiative or introduce a program, right? Or figure out how you can be the instructional leader in the room this week. Not necessarily in your classroom, but how can you scale that to teachers on your team? Can you lead a PLC? Can you lead some sort of professional development? Can you lead a team meeting based on data? What can you do right now? And then lastly, what can you do to grow yourself while you are growing others? That is so key and critical to your long-term growth and development. If you are someone as an aspiring school leader, you know that you need interview preparation. You need a better understanding of what you are stepping into as it relates to those interviews. Like, what does that look like? What is the hiring committee truly going to ask me? What is my leadership story and how do I develop that? That is what I do. I work with aspiring school leaders as it relates to interview prep, but also leadership development. So once you land that first leadership role, you can make that impact from day one on student achievement. Because it's not just about landing the role, it's about staying in the role, being impactful, and continuing to grow as an instructional leader. If that's you, reach out, let's have a conversation, or you can visit www.donovansmalls2.com/coaching to find out more information regarding how we can work together. As always, I hope you have a great week of teaching, leading, and learning. Take care.